Let's talk about opportunity costs for a nonprofit. And if you're wondering what opportunity cost is, I'm about to explain it to you. So, gosh, it's been, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, genuinely 20 years ago. Oh my gosh, maybe more 25 years ago. Whew, a long time ago, let's go with that. I was just beginning my career in fund development work. I was working for a nonprofit. I was working on my first capital campaign. It's a $5 million plus capital campaign. I was hired in as administrative support to the development director and capital campaign counsel. And just so you have an understanding of how capital campaigns work, your first capital campaign usually could go from anywhere from, depending on how much money you're trying to raise. So $5.5 million, we're talking about a 2 or 3 year campaign. And you start out in the silent phase where you work to get the first 60% of the money in. So the first $2 or $3 million. And then you move to what's considered a public phase where you go start to secure the last remaining dollars. And I want to say at this point in the campaign, when I was brought on, we were still in the silent phase. And you're out there, you have a campaign cabinet you bring together. You're meeting every month or every few weeks. You're looking at who are the donors we need to talk to. At this point, you're asking for significant gifts, $200,000, $500,000, because your goal is to get to 3 million. And usually to get to that in a year and a half or so, that's the level of ask you have to do and the level of commitments you need. So I'm in the office. We're getting ready for, I think, a kickoff with our board and the campaign cabinet. And this is a very involved process because this could be the opportunity for the board members to step up and they make their big gift because you need lead gifts in the capital campaign. You need that. And that's the work that the development director and the campaign council are working on. They're working very closely with the executive director. He was in and out of our office all the time. Me and the development director shared an office. We were just in there together because the organization was growing. This is their first capital campaign. So we're in the office talking, and campaign counsel's in there. When they come in town, they come through at least once a week. And at this phase, campaign counsel's there. I'm over in my desk working. Development director's over her desk working. And she's plugging along on something. And the campaign counsel looked over and said, "Hey, what are you working on?" And I can't remember what prompted him to even ask her that. But there must have been something he wanted to talk to her about. And, he see her going at it. And maybe he didn't want to disrupt her if well, what are you working on? So she's like, "Oh, got an in-kind letter I'm sending out to get somebody to sponsor, I think, the balloons for the kickoff or cupcakes." It was something that was negligible in cost, maybe a couple $100 that she was looking to get somebody to pay for. Now, let me just add this before I go any further. If you come from an organization where they're trying to get by, where they nickel and dime, they consider themselves frugal. If you come from a nonprofit organization that consider themselves, hi. Oh, look, hi. It's my neighbor who's cooking something delicious. Next time. So we have, so when you have a person who comes from a nonprofit that may have a scarcity mindset, that's what I wanted to say. They really believe that the best way as a nonprofit to go is to try to get everything you can for free, cheap, donate it. That's just how they are. So instead of you spending money to buy like balloons or cake or something, see if they'll donate it. That's a common strategy that people use. But you're doing a $5.5 million campaign and you're spending your time sitting there trying to give you somebody to give you a $50 cake. And our campaign counsel was like, "I need you to understand something." He straight up, he told her to stop that. Stop doing that. Whatever you're doing, he's like, "Stop it." You have $5.5 million you need to raise. I don't need you sitting down trying to get a $50 balloon bouquet donated. I don't need you trying to get somebody to donate cupcakes for a kickoff where we're going to be asking people for a $100,000 gift, $250,000 gifts. I don't need you spending 2 and 3 and 4 hours putting together a letter and putting it in the mail and trying to get somebody to give you that. He like, just buy it. We have a campaign budget. Pay for the cake, pay for the balloons, and you spend your time picking up this phone, coordinating these meetings, looking at this donor pipeline list, because we need to go talk to folks for some money. We don't need you on here. We don't need you spending your time doing this. He's like, you're not paid to do this level of work. That's work that a volunteer could do, and not a campaign volunteer. You could get an intern, some student, and they can come in here and do that. He's like, but you are paid way too much to do this. We are literally losing money because we're losing the time that you have to things that are not worthy of the time you're spending on them. He's like, that is literally an opportunity that we are losing in your time. I heard that and I was like, I never thought about that. It never had occurred to me how you can take your time that you could be doing something else of greater value, but because of whatever reason in your mind, like, oh, we got to get everything super cheap. I got to do it like this. So I spend time on small tasks that don't move the bigger goal, because in my mind, those are things that are necessary. And sometimes it feels easier to sit down and write a letter asking for somebody to make a donation of balloons or cupcakes versus I need to get on the phone and start setting up some donor meetings for our capital campaign, for our cabinet members. I need to look at the grant opportunities that somebody else has already vetted. I need to sit down and look at them and start deciding which ones are priorities to start working on. She could be saying, I need Yvette to like, hey, we got this campaign kickoff event. Yvette, I need you to make sure the caterer is showing up, the photographer, where we at with the press releases. These are all the things I need you to work on, because these are high results pieces that, if they're executed correctly, are going to bring us the money we're trying to get. We're trying to get this $5.5 million. We're not trying to get, she was not hired to get balloons and cupcakes. She was not being paid the salary to sit down and do some kind of in-kind ask. That's not what she was hired to do. I wasn't hired to do that either. But she came from a background where a part of her job was to go out and do in-kind stuff. And I wasn't surprised. I've worked in places since, as I grew and became a development director myself, capital campaign directors. There's been at least once or twice where I worked someplace where somebody above me thought that should be the focus. I know we're paying you $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, but I need you to sit down and see if you can negotiate to get the rental of this place that we want to do this donor event. See if you can get that donated. It costs $500, maybe $1,000, but you want me to take my time that you're paying me for to get on the phone and spend the next 3 or 4 hours trying to track somebody down, ask them questions, see if they can do it. If they say no, I got to go find new places. I literally have to sit down and come up with a list of places to call. And then I'm going to have to go. And then I'm going to have to touch base, do back and forth, negotiation. That literally could eat up 20 hours of my day, of my week. Versus I could take that 20 hours and be going to meet with a donor and making an ask, or moving them towards an ask, or thanking them for a recent gift. That's what I should be using my time for. This is the message I'm going to convey to executive directors. You have to think about when people talk about, they have this long list of stuff. Oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. I'm just overwhelmed. Sit down and say to yourself, I was hired as an executive director to do 3 things. I was hired to bring in resources, that 2 ensures that our budget is fully funded and 3, to make sure programs are executed as we said we would, and that we're able to report that. Those are the 3 things. Those are the 3 things. And in that is staff oversight, relationship building with board members and donors and public officials, and making sure clients are being properly served. All that's in those 3 things. So when you're looking at the list of things to do, and you're thinking to yourself, I only have 8 hours in a day, you have to prioritize things that contribute to one of those 3 things at a high level. So if I know that I have to make sure there's enough money coming in to maintain cash flow, to make sure we meet payroll, we pay all our bills on time, we have rainy day money funds, then that means revenue, resource development work has to be a priority on my list. And if I know I need to bring in $1 million, $500,000, whatever the budget is, then I have to first target the higher ask first. If I have a budget of $250,000, I should not be spending my day sitting down doing conversations with people for $25, $50, making ask of $100, because it's not going to give me to my $250,000 budget. I should have laid out a plan. Okay, here are the conversations I plan to have. Here's where I think I can make an ask and get the funding. That's what you should be doing. And then you go execute the plan. Same thing when it comes to dealing with staff. You should not be doing the staff's job. I can't tell you how many EDs that I have to sit down and have a conversation. Why are you doing the staff's job? Well, the way they do it, hear her, and I like it. Stop it. Stop it. If the person you hired isn't doing their job, fire them. Tell them it's been great. It does not mean you're not a good person. You're wonderful. We could kick it, get a drink. But in this role, you're not good. I need to hire somebody who can do this job and do it effectively, because my job is not to run the programs. Now, if you're like, well, I'm the only staff member for our organization, so a part of my work is running the programs. Okay, I can go with you on that. But even then, all your time is not spent on the program. Because more than likely, the program's small enough, if it's just you, that you could probably spend half your time on program management and resource development. And if you do resource development right, that means including resourcing volunteers, you can bring in enough volunteers to help you with that program. So that means instead of focusing all your time on trying to do program delivery, you should be focusing a part of your time on resource development so you can bring in volunteers to help with it, or you can continue to build a budget so you can hire somebody. That is really what an executive director should be doing. At least 50% of your time really should be dedicated to resource development, raising money, meeting with donors, grant writing. It really should be. Because when you take the time you have and put it someplace else, you're literally costing the agency more money, because you're spending your time on low revenue producing activities that do not benefit the organization. They might seem like safe activities. They may in your mind be considered priority activities, but they're really not. They're really not. They are activities that, quite honestly, if you raise the resources, you can just pay for it. So the next time as an executive director, you have to choose between trying to find a way to get a venue for free for an event you plan to have, or sitting down and making calls to get sponsors for this event. I'm telling you right now, your focus needs to be on getting the sponsors for the event. If you set your sponsorship up right, you can pay for the space. You can pay for the space, you can pay for the food, you can pay for the band, you can pay for the centerpieces. If you call somebody for sponsorship and they say, well, I can't give you $2,000, but I'll donate all the centerpieces, and that's cool. But let's understand that the conversation started with, can you buy, will you pay, will you sponsor? And it might land at in-kind, but we're not starting there. Understand that? I am happy to talk with anybody who is trying to figure out how they can raise more money with less stress. I'm happy to talk to anybody who's working to try to get over the fact that they know they're spending time on things that are not productive because they're afraid, they don't know how to ask for money. Their board's not as helpful as they thought they would be. Or you might be a board and you're looking at your ED and you're like, we thought she could do this, we thought he could do that, and we're not seeing the results. I'm happy to help. My name is Yvette Kelly Fields, CEO and Chief and Principal Fundraiser, Principal Consultant for Yvette Kelly Fields and Associates, and I'm here to help. All right, y'all have a good rest of your evening.